I know. It's good. It gets people to buy things. They
Yeah.
like you, and they like you, and then they buy the thing.
I mean, sometimes. Some,
Sometimes.
sometimes they like me and they don't buy a damn thing. Other
Yeah.
times they hate me and they buy it. They buy it just to give it a bad review. But
Oh, I don't. Are those people exist?
those people exist, man. You'd be
Ugh.
amazed. I live rent free in their heads. It's
That's
great.
that's so odd. That's so strange. I mean, I just that's a sad life. That's a sad life.
I don't know. It sustains me. I drink their tears. I feed upon it.
I mean, that's valid. Might as well
Yeah,
use it.
exactly.
Use it. Harness. Harness it. Uh, I liked your book a lot,
Thank you.
quite a bit.
I'm happy to hear that.
I love elderly protagonists.
We should have more of them, don't
We
you think?
should. I've written a couple books with them, and now I'm like, maybe I should do it again.
Yeah.
They're great. They're they've had they've gone through hell. They're physically fragile in some cases. Means you're easier to put them in precarious situations. All that stuff. Um, and I live in Florida,
Oh,
where there are many
many
of
elderly people. Yes.
these communities. I
Yes.
In the book you drop the STD capital of the world, and I grew up literally 20 minutes away from the villages in
Yikes.
Florida, which is the STD capital of the world,
Wow.
because all the old people, they don't, I mean, what do they got to lose? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I have questions for you about the book.
Sure.
I
Hit
hope
me.
you, yeah. All good. All
All
about
right.
things I'm curious about. Um, so Jerry, I love Jerry.
Thank you.
Jerry's great, but he is also like broken.
Yeah.
He's fundamentally broken
Yep.
because he lost his wife. You understand it, but he's not a nice guy, really.
No.
Not for the most part. He's bitter, and you understand why, but he is kind of broken. And you know, you are always given advice as a writer. Oh, save the cat. Make your character likable. Make him root. You want your audience to root for him. Um, there's not really a save the cat moment for Jerry. And was your thought process, well, the humanity in his brokenness that's an in for a reader. I don't need to give him a save the cat moment, because he's ultimately a broken man, and everyone has those moments where they feel broken. Or is
Yeah.
it more, who cares? This is who he is. This is the truth of the character. I don't need to make him quote unquote likable, at least not at first, and the reader will gain that attraction to him over time.
I mean, Jerry went through several different character, types throughout the composition of the story. Uh, but from early on, I knew I wanted him to be this kind of elderly, curmudgeonly type that just wants to be left alone. The whys of why he wants to be left alone developed after the fact, but like I never really considered like him having a save the cat moment. I don't really, you know, prescribe to that concept really. That's more of like a filmmaking thing.
Okay.
Like in fiction, I feel like you have more ability, with prose, more ability to kind of touch on nuances as opposed to just showing people on a screen. You can really get into their psyche and and understand what makes them tick. So I don't necessarily think that we need a save the cat moment for in fiction, at least. But also, I mean, that wasn't on my mind at all while writing it. It was primarily my way of dealing with a scary situation, and also kind of sorting out my own trauma and sorting out my own mental health, obstacles that I face every day, and marrying that with this scary situation in which my wife was, there was a possibility she might have had cancer at the time while I was working on this book. And, you know, Jerry developed from that. I'm very much an antisocial person. I can go to a con or a conference for writers and meet readers and have a great time and be friendly. I'm not actively trying to be an asshole or anything, because I can be friendly, but there's a cost to it. Like, my social battery depletes very fast. I was just talking to Chuck Wendig about this a couple of days ago, because we had done an event last weekend, called Dark Ink at the Doylestown Bookshop here in
I
Pennsylvania.
saw some pictures on social media about that. It looked incredible.
Yeah, it was great. It was a blast. It was an all day thing, and by the time I got home that evening, I was exhausted and I was hungover from that event for 2 days. And that's usually par for the course. That's, I go and I can be social for a while. I can put on the mask and wear the suit and do the dance for a while, and then I have to rest and I have to sit in the dark and be alone, and because I get overstimulated. And that gets worse. That's gotten worse as I've gotten older. But, I wanted to explore that with an elderly character. So, I'm thinking, what am I going to do, 40 years from now? And, say Erica is the first one to go and I'm on my own. What the hell am I going to do? How am I going to survive? How am I going to function?
Yeah.
While dealing with these debilitating mental health challenges. And, I really wanted to explore that. That was my way of working through it. And that's pretty much how Jerry came to be. Jerry just wants to be left alone. He wants to grieve and live out the rest of his years in solitude. And what happens when you put that kind of a personality into a setting where everybody else is the exact opposite, and there's one fucking guy who is basically the Jerry's foil in every way, and he wants Jerry to come out of his shell and be social and meet everybody and take part in all the gatherings and the parties and the community and drink the drink and wear the t-shirt. And so what happens when you put this, unstoppable force in the way of an immovable object?
Yeah.
And that's where, the conflict comes from in Sundowners.
Yeah. I mean, even before you introduce the supernatural elements,
Yeah.
there's inherently this clash of
Mhm.
ideology, of identity.
Yeah, because there's this expectation with most people in the world that, you know everyone's going to be polite, everyone's going to, fit in, or is trying to fit into a societal norm. But that's just not the way the world works. There are people who actively don't want to fit into that norm. I'm one of them. If I had my way and the means, I would do my writing, and you'd never see me. I would just be this face on the dust jacket and a name on the cover, and that's it. You wouldn't, I wouldn't be on social media.
Yeah.
But that's not the world we live in, and you know, until I get a few movie deals, that's not going to happen. So
Could happen.
it could happen.
Could happen.
Maybe by the time I'm Jerry's age, it could happen.
I mean, it feels like there's a lot of like elder, like Liam Neeson could easily be Jerry in the Sundowners dance. Any of those more, aging leading guys, I could easily
Yeah,
see them in Sundowners dance in a movie.
I
I'd
don't
go
know if
see it.
Liam Neeson would be the right fit for Jerry.
He was just the first name I grabbed onto, but it's like I think as I've seen him on press tours for
Yeah,
Naked
and
Gun a
Naked
lot.
Gun. Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, Harrison Ford
I could.
or
Yeah, I think Harrison Ford's a little bit too old, but I could see that. Yeah,
yeah, something like that. But I mean, it's like, I don't know. There's the geezer teaser as they put them on Tubi. The movies for old men who just want to watch the people they knew from the 80s
yeah.
via movies. All of a sudden, there's a lot of those. Speaking of, I wanted to ask about Arthur. I love Arthur as the antagonist, as a villain. He's incredible because he very rarely breaks that mask of being this genial, overly genial, even though you do describe him as a predator. Very, like Shark's smile, I recall that very early on. He has a shark smile, and it's immediately like, well, no, he is, yeah, he's smiling, but that doesn't mean anything. Um, I really like the fact that he also is he has a surety of righteousness.
Mm-hmm.
He is a believer.
Yeah,
He's a believer. He's a true believer. He's dangerous in that way. Is that, are we supposed to read that as inherently dangerous? That he doesn't, because Jerry does question himself. He is has suffering, but also you hear, he discusses, he's basically having inner monologue with his late wife,
yeah,
and he's bouncing back and forth, what's the right course of action, while Arthur is positive this is the right thing, what we're doing is the right thing.
yeah. So Arthur, Arthur is kind of like an archetype figure of fanaticism and zealotry. And for my readers who are familiar with my work, if you've read my novel Devil's Creek, you know my stance on that sort of thing. Uh, and it's basically a viewpoint that I take personally in my life. I am full of doubt. I have been full of doubt for as long as I can remember, and I second guess everything I do, even everything I write. Especially, I thought people were going to hate the Sundowners dance. I thought people would hate Devil's Creek, Scanline, everything I've published. I thought people were going to hate, and that day may come. But you know, I feel like doubting is part of what makes us human, and there are only just a handful of absolutes, and that's death, taxes, and the inevitable heat death of the universe. Um, so take someone who is so just they're committed and they have their convictions and they are 100% certain that they are right, and only people who agree with what they believe or how they see things are also correct. Everyone else is wrong, and we see that every day, especially here in America. We see that kind of zealotry on the news every fucking day, in our government, politics, in the religious institutions that are helping to feed this particular brand of politics and government. And I find that that kind of certainty is something to be alarmed by. It's cause for alarm. That sort of certainty is something that is I find to be dangerous, because it's always the people who are certain that their way is the right way that end up obviously hurting or killing large groups of people.
Yeah.
Whether it be, with their words and directives, or be it physically like Jim Jones. So Arthur kind of came to embody that concept. Like, this is a guy, he's outwardly very charming. He's outwardly just a very genial person. He could be your best friend. He's always there. He always wants you to, wants the best for you. Always got a smile on his face, always happy to talk to you. But behind those eyes and that smile is an ulterior motive. And anybody who's telling you for certain my way is the way, they're looking to con you out of something.
Yeah. I mean, I love him for that reason. And I often, villains in my own books are always like, it's the most dangerous people are the ones who are utterly convinced they're right.
Yeah.
Even despite the fact that I don't want to spoil the book, but as it goes down the path, you're like, he is utterly insane. This is utterly crazy. And but you never betrays it, never betrays any doubt at all. He always, and even things where I would go, that seems very foolhardy, but because he is so sure, so confident
Hmm.
in his beliefs, you go, no, of course he would do that. Of course he believes.
And even the faith that he puts in Jerry,
Yeah.
thinking that I can change him,
Yes.
you know, that's his hubris that comes
Yes.
back to haunt him.
It's, I mean, and it is utter. I mean, again, like you say, you see it every day, so it makes it very believable that his belief, because there are people who have this utmost belief in the most absurd and possible things, and I want to scream sometimes,
Yep.
but um, there's a line here that I highlighted, and it was about Jerry and his walks with his late wife, with
Yeah.
Abby,
Yeah.
and their walks had been sacred to him. And that is one of the lines that kept playing in my head because of, and like, the the question of what do these two characters, like, again with Jerry and Arthur, what do they worship? And the fact that the fair viewers, whatever you want to call them, the community, they hold the goddess sacred. They hold the drink sacred. They hold their late night parties sacred. They hold this community sacred. And yet, but is Jerry's inherent difference is that he considers this I mean, basically humanity sacred, and Abby is basically that embodiment of that.
It's a good question. Uh, I never really thought about it that way, honestly. Like, whereas these other people are worshiping at the foot of what they perceive to be a higher power, Jerry worships someone that's very real, very human, and he holds her as such high regard. Um, it wasn't. I didn't have that in mind when I wrote the story. I wrote, created those characters, but that's an interesting dynamic you point out there. This might have been subconscious. I don't know.
I mean, it's just like because there's so much in the book about this rejection of humanity in the
Mhm.
Fairview people, where
Yeah, that's yeah, yeah,
they're constantly like, they don't want to get old. They want to and they want to live for as long as they possibly can. And in order to do that, they will go to, you know, disgusting lengths.
yeah,
And Jerry kind of inherently rejects it.
yeah,
There's not a lot of like there's not a lot of like a big moment. I don't For me, like, it very like there's almost no tension for Jerry to actually join them. It is almost like he thinks about it. He's like, oh shit, that, like, oh yeah, I could live forever. And but the only times he really entertains the idea is to save other people. He wants to make sure that other people don't get hurt by these maniacs. And I was thinking, I'm like, well, how does he embody humanity? And it's like, well, he's having this figurative speech with his wife the entire novel. And it's like, well, that's what being human is to him. It's this relationship he had with her, and the fact that it ended, and ended really horribly, but he still kind of even treasures that. I don't know, that 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 the relationship, that it existed at all, that they had this long marriage. And yes, of course he misses her, and is, obviously suffering from not just grief, but kind of loss of identity.
Yeah.
Which is the other thing that kind of, the "Who am I without you?"
Yeah.
That line, which again I highlighted it both times. And I went back. I mean, oh, this perfect bookends to like, "Who am I without you?" This search for who am I, and it feels like it keeps coming back to, well, I am human. I am
Yeah.
flawed and imperfect, but I am not whatever those people are.
Yeah, it's like in a sense, like the folks of Fairview have almost kind of resigned themselves. They've given up. And Jerry, on the other hand, as he goes on, and his gradual change from being depressed and just giving up himself to actually wanting to try to help other people that are affected by this thing. Um, I think that is his way of moving on and actually deciding, okay, I want to live. I want to keep trying. Um, and yeah, that's all I got on that, man. Like it's a great thing to point out. I wasn't prepared for that at all. So
I mean, it's go ahead. No, sorry.
I feel like any answer I could give you would not, rise to the challenge of that question.
I mean, I really, I mean, it's again, it's this. There's this. I don't know. I think there's a lot of books that pay service to body horror,
Hmm.
but they don't actually engage with the actual, like. There's a comic called Upgrade Soul. I don't know if you've ever heard of it
I
or read it.
haven't.
I recommend it to everybody. It is one of the top my favorite comics of all time. It is like, it's science fiction story, but it is basically very heavy at about how identity is very tied to the body, our
Hmm.
body. And as we age, like, you can't, the story is about elderly characters who want to live forever, so they want their consciousness transferred to younger perfect bodies. But they're not them anymore, because their bodies are also like the trauma they've accrued over
Hmm.
time. Like, they wear glasses, and you're like, well, wearing glasses is a part of who I am. Having a limp, I've lived with or I have back problems, and like, for 20 years I've had back problems, and how I live my life is, and my identity is built into the kind of pain that I live with at times. And that's everybody, their own little whatever, trauma they've endured. And it feels like Jerry really does it kind of embody that, like, I am my grief.
Yeah.
I am this loss that I've suffered. And by giving in to Arthur and to the Fairviews, to the goddess, feels like he's losing connection to his humanity. Uh and that's like, I wanted to applaud you, because that it does it's heavy and it's awful. And it feels like a lot of times body horror is just like, oh, isn't this gross? I'm like, well, yeah, it is gross. You're like bad, your body's melting, or there's monsters in you or whatever.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean much to me unless it's backed up with, you know, the theme, the identity, the
Yeah.
person, the character.
Thank you.
No, yeah, and I also, the having an elderly character have to reflect on mental illness and rationalize it and deal with it. Again, it's another thing that you don't see very often, and I really, really liked it.
Thank you.
Um, Especially that first that I don't know, like the fact that he gets depressed, and it's not like we're just you're just like, oh, 3 weeks go by, and you're like, Yeah, that's what depression is like. When you're caught in it, just yeah, I'm depressed, and then suddenly you basically black out. It like time just
Yeah,
vanishes because you're just in a cave. You're in a mine.
yeah. That's there were two things I wanted to do with the book. One was represent the elderly respectfully and not just turn it into like some turn Jerry into like some doddering idiot who is always like falling down and stuff like that. I didn't want him to be a caricature. I wanted him to be a living, breathing, complex human being who just happens to be, you know, just his body's falling apart due to age. And the other thing was I wanted to really show what actual depression looks like and what anxiety looks like. Because
Yeah,
of what most people, I feel like, even today, have this very broad idea of what depression is and looks like. And it's like, it's not just that you're sad, it's that you're kind of in limbo. You're in stasis. You don't feel anything. You don't like doing anything. You literally just like, I said this to a friend once, and like, I'm not suicidal. I don't have ideation, but I can understand the appeal of non existence. I get it. Like, you don't, all your worries, all your stress, if that could just be gone, I get the appeal, believe me.
yeah.
But, it's, I look at it very much like that. I wanted to represent, this is what someone who's entering a depressive spiral looks like.
Yeah.
And this is how it impacts them. And this is how, you know, I can only imagine it is 100 times worse for someone of that age group than it is for someone of my age group. I'm in my early 40s. I was in my 30s when I wrote the book. And, you know, I feel like that representation isn't really covered all that much. You don't really see it. It's used more of like a plot device
Yeah.
or as a means of explaining something away. And, I wanted to really represent those two elements correctly. That was important to me.
I mean, I mean, like, there's, I literally highlighted. There's a section in that, basically in that kind of depression part of the book where he's alone and kind of spiraling, and then Kat shows up,
Yeah.
and there's a particular moment where you have his she asks him a question, and he has his potential answers, the things and you see his thought process, and all
Mm.
in parentheses, and you only use it one time in the book, and it's perfect because it is literally like that is the perfect explanation of like this, the anxious overthought of like, oh, here's an explanation, here's an explanation, here's an
Yeah.
explanation, and then ultimately, oh, I just won't say anything, or I'll just give a non-answer because
Yeah. Because
it's too
there's
much.
there's this constant wrestling match between what the truth is and what they should say to make this person not feel as concerned and not feel awkward. Because if people, most people in my experience, they don't like outright honesty. It makes them uncomfortable. Just ask, ask my bosses at the last couple of jobs I've held. I'm a very direct person. I'm a very blunt person, and to sometimes to my detriment. And somebody asks you what you're feeling. It's like, hey, how's it going? Oh, well, it's pretty terrible. I'm depressed, and I didn't get paid on time, and my books aren't selling well. And it's like there's a whole fucking laundry list of things that run through my mind. Like, well, yeah, things are shit. Things suck right now. Money is tight. Like, people are in pain. They're being murdered all the time. That the world
Yeah,
sucks.
it's bad.
And in the scheme of things, none of this fucking matters because the sun's going to explode in a few billion years, and this rock will be obliterated to dust in space. Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's it's very much that I don't want to say something that's going to make this even more awkward than it already is because I have to lie.
Right. Yeah. Keep up the mask.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's always the, I don't know, there's moments where people ask me how I'm doing, and I'm like, oh, well, actually, I'm pretty tired. I've been trying to do this and I've been failing. And then I'm like, well, unless you weren't really asking, and then I'm just okay. I'm fine. It's okay. I'm alive.
Yeah,
It's like, which answer do you want? Do you want the vulnerable answer of how more representative of my actual feelings?
yeah,
Or do you want the polite answer? So we don't have to delve into, you know, being emotionally vulnerable in front of each other,
hmm
or quote unquote burdening you with,
yeah.
you
Like
know,
it's
emotion.
it's one of those societal things. People don't respond well to true vulnerability because I think partially because it puts them in a position where they feel like they have to do something about it, and and it's also just more socially acceptable to just say, "Yeah, I'm good. How are you?"
Yeah. But I
You
mean,
know.
I it's used, I think because you only use it the one time, and it's in this moment that I think it really kind of nails, like, Jerry and Kat as, like, a couple, they feel like a real couple for the first time, in
hmm
that, where it's not like in this dreamlike party. It is it's in the shit. It's Jerry's depressed, and Kat does the thing where, oh yeah, I'm gonna help dig you out of this.
Yeah,
And it feels real and authentic and raw and hurtful and painful, but in a good way, because that is what a true, friend or partner will do, is like,
yeah,
I'll dig you out of your pizza boxes. uh I don't know, we're running out of time for this segment. I could keep talking to you about Jerry and
yeah.
forever.
Absolutely.
um Sundowner's Dance is incredible. I've already said it a couple times, but y'all should go read Sundowner's Dance. If you're watching
Thank
this,
you.
listening, and you haven't, go buy it, go read it. Are you ready for a second act?
A second
The
act.
second
Sure.
act. I'm just gonna ask you some questions. This is my
Sure. Hit
it's
me.
my terrible segue.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Um. It's a question I think I've been asking everybody. What's the best piece of advice you've ever followed?
Oh God. Best piece of advice I've ever followed. Man. Uh don't wait on others to tell you who you are.
It's good. It's good advice. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Me too.
Uh, yeah. Who's a writer more people should be reading?
Man, can I give you several?
Yeah, as many as you like. I love hearing multiple answers, honestly.
Catherine Silva, Amanda Headley, Laurel Hightower, Robert Otone, I guess.
You guess.
Uh, you know, there are so many indie authors that rarely get the spotlight, and they should. And those are just a few. There are hundreds, maybe thousands more. Um, you know, I would say to potential readers that I understand that Big Five publishing is the path of least resistance when it comes to going into a bookstore and finding a book you want to read. But there is a whole world of subgenres of horror out there that you can look up, and they're kept alive by the writers in the indie space.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the as I've been doing this podcast for very long. I'm endeavoring to make it self pub, indie press,
Yeah,
traditionally pub people, and no matter what I read, I'm blown away by it. It's like the talent and ability is present basically everywhere. But that's partially the reason I want to ask the question, is
yeah.
I want to
Another
read.
one that comes to mind. There's a book. I don't know if it's out yet. I think it came out through Tenebris Press by Valkyrie Crew called
Huh.
Puppets Banquet. I had a opportunity to read an early release copy. I gave it a blurb myself. It's a total mind fuck, but I couldn't put it down. It's
Okay.
just bizarre as hell. And I normally don't go for that kind of thing, but it was intriguing. And then at the same time, you've got a more established author like Daniel Krauss, who just released probably the best book of his career, Angel Down.
Yeah, it's on
And
near the
like,
top of my PBR right now.
I'm about halfway through it, and it's like I'm in awe of his grasp of language and how he's able to weave this into a non-stop sentence. Like the whole book is a single sentence, and it's fucking brilliant.
Okay.
You know, um,
Now I'm more excited. Now I'm even more excited to read it.
yeah, it's you know probably one of the best books I've read this year. So Summer Cannon's another author that people should check out. She has a story in The End of the World as We Know It, New Tales of Stephen King's The Stand, that just came out this week, which last I checked was sitting in the top 100 of all books on Amazon, which is insane. Um, check out Summer Cannon's work. Check out Wiley Young. Check out uh, his name just slipped my mind. Anthony Rapino. I can't believe it slipped my mind. He's one of my best friends. Anthony Rapino's work. Check him out. Absolutely check out his work. It's so underrated and deserves more attention.
Yeah. I'm going to do my best to put all those books and names in the show notes so people can click that through to Amazon. I try and buy most of the books that people recommend just so I can add them to my infinite TBR.
Yeah.
This is a question from my last guest, Joey Powell, editor in chief of Mad X Media. Just had a book come out. What is your favorite book from a Black author?
Oh, probably Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Copy.
I was going to say you name drop S.A. Cosby in the Sundowner's Dance. And
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Sean. So I met Sean in person. Like we had mutual friends through Eric Pruitt, who's also a crime fiction pulp writer, uh, and I met Sean at Scares That Care, like the summer before Blacktop Wasteland blew up, and it's been just a fucking privilege to watch his career, like
Explode.
explode. Zen E. Rockland. Can't remember the name of her book. Her name's Terry. Her name's Terry Clark. Terry, I'm sorry if I, fucked up, but
I'll find it. I'll find it.
yeah,
Google. I'll find it on
Zen
Google and put it on there
Zen
too.
Zen E. Rockland. Um, Her book is, really good. Um, I'm ashamed to say it. I'm not as well read with black authors. That's just
I mean, I think that was part of Joey's intent. Was like, hey,
R.J. Joseph.
there you go. I
R.J. Joseph.
Yeah.
Lisa Elmarie Wood. Lisa Wood. Um, Linda Addison, of course. Linda is a fantastic poet if poetry's your thing. Um,
I like to
yeah.
read poetry. I'm terrible at writing it.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I always tell people. They're like, you ever write poetry? I'm like, yeah, it's real
Well,
bad when I do it.
little known piece of trivia. My very first professional publication was a poem
Oh, okay.
in my university's literary journal. It was called Porno.
So you don't have to have this right now, but I will circle back around for your question for our next guest. So have a question, think of a question, any question
About anything?
about it. Could be about anything. It can be book related, obviously, writing related, obviously. There'll be another author, but it can be any question. I don't really care.
That's it. Okay. Here's a tough one.
Okay.
This is this is gonna be a curveball question for the next person. I'm sorry, not sorry, but here it is. It's a very simple question
Okay.
with a very complicated answer. What's your life?
What's your life? Okay.
That comes from a Henry Rollins spoken word thing where he talked about this driver that he met while he was visiting Cambodia, I believe. And the driver said, "What's your life?" And Henry's like, "Well, I don't think I've ever been asked that. Like, not how are you doing,
What's your life?
but what's your life?" And the driver explained that every day they would ask, "How are you doing?" And that's just a very boring question. So he started saying, "What's your life?" And that I think Henry Rollins said, like, I have to smoke marijuana to get to the bottom of this question. But that's a it's a legit question that
No,
sometimes I think about that from time to time. It's like,
I like it.
what's your life?
I
What
might
is your
start.
life?
I mean, that's a. I mean, that's. That might be one of those questions I start. I add to my giant list of questions.
Yeah,
Like I start adding throwing it at people.
what's your life?
What's your life? Uh, let's see. What's a book that rips out your heart?
Oh God, book that rips out my heart. There are so many. Um, Crossroads by Laurel Hightower.
Okay, I'll buy that one too. I think I might. I might
Yeah,
actually. I might actually already have it. I'd have
that
to check.
will rip your fucking heart out. Especially if you're a parent, it
No,
will destroy you.
it's always the ones that to go after the parents of the world.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing to write?
Favorite thing that I write or what I've written?
Favorite thing to write, like a certain kind of scene, a certain kind of
I
character.
mean,
It doesn't
cosmic
have.
horror. Cosmic
Okay.
horror is my jam. That's my thing. Um, I love writing weird stuff that maybe doesn't get an explanation. It's just a thing that has to be dealt with.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
it's always good. I forgot to mention when you finally described Gladys up close in Sundowners. I really liked it and
Thank you.
how terrible. I mean, it's terrible. It really upset me, but I liked it that it upset me. Um. What's a word you hate?
Synergy.
Synergy. That might be my favorite answer so far. I don't. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not. I don't like that either. Now that you mention it, it
And
has.
I will say that with the caveat that I refuse to acknowledge that it's considered a word these days.
Fair enough. Let's see. Let's end on. This is a question that from my very first guest, Mr. Robert Atone.
Okay.
What's your favorite second act in fiction?
God damn it. Second act.
Yeah.
Oh man, I have no idea because I don't really think about stories in terms of acts.
Right.
You
Okay.
know, I'm not.
His answers were The Exorcist and The Fisherman.
I mean, he's not wrong. Those are
That's what I
great,
said. I said those are two great ones.
but second act, man, I don't know. I don't. I don't think of stories in those terms.
I think that is the right answer. I think that's a perfectly good answer.
Okay,
I think that's
thank you.
fine. I mean, I think that's also like, yeah, some stories, are I think are more easily fit into that mold of like, oh,
Hmm.
there's a first, second, a third act, whatever. But then a lot of stories, you're like, oh, this doesn't fit in that way. It doesn't. You can't split it into acts. It's not neat and tidy.
Yeah, like when I am crafting stories myself, I mean, I have a handful of scenes. I know where I'm going to start. I know where I'm going to end, and there's going to be like key points throughout, and then I'm just kind of connecting the dots, and this is internalized instinct of how to tell a story. I don't go sit down and go, okay, this needs to happen by the end of the first act.
Right.
This needs to happen by the end of the second act. I don't think of it in those terms at all. Uh, this is why I'm not a screenwriter or a playwright.
Yeah. I mean, it is, I don't know. There's a lot of that is often thrown around of like, and I don't know. I do sometimes, when I'm constructing a story, I do think of like, oh, this is the roughly the first third of the story. This is the ending of the story. This is stuff that's going to happen in the middle. Sometimes it works out where it feels like it's neat or neater. Then sometimes I'm like, this is not going to fit into a traditional story structure, as they might say. And that's okay. It doesn't matter. But that's another what's your life question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay, we're ready to move on to the last segment.
Okay.
For ready for some blood, which is struggle, trouble with a work in progress with whatever you're working on now or whatever you've worked on in the past. If it's a Sundowner's Dance or whatever you want to talk about.
Uh, I mean, Sundowner's Dance was hard, but it was my own damn fault. Like, I resisted what the story needed to be.
Okay.
When I started writing Sundowners, I was fresh off of completing uh, Devil's Creek. Devil's Creek is a very long book. Like, first draft was 179,000 words.
Oh boy,
Final
that's
draft was
a
around
lot.
146, 147. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like almost a 600-page book. It's huge. And the last thing I wanted was to write another novel. And Sundowner's Dance began as a short story,
Okay.
and it kept growing. And when I realized, I got frustrated with it because it kept growing, so I put it aside, and then I revisited it a few years later, uh, and that's when I really finally decided to let it be what it needed to be, which was a novel. But even at that point, I was saying it'll be a novella, it'll be a novella, and it was a novella until Catherine's daughter showed up at Jerry's doorstep, and that changed everything because now I had this whole other character dynamic.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, I finally relented and said, fine, it'll be a fucking novel. And, but it was like pulling teeth because I did more drafts of Sundowner's Dance than I normally do with the book. We had like 6 total drafts.
How
And
many do you have? How many is?
normally only do like after like line edits and stuff and final polishing, usually up to about 5.
Okay.
We did a whole extra draft of Sundowners just to kind of get all the pieces right. But I essentially had to rewrite the book at one point. After my agent got her hands on it and gave me notes, then I basically rewrote the book from scratch, and it took like 2.5 months to do that. But with those notes, I had a better idea of the shape of the story, and it was a lot of the problems earlier on with the earlier drafts was that it had been a shorter piece, so the timeline was way more compressed.
Abbreviated. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was a mess essentially, and it took a lot of rewrites to get it into the shape that it's in today. That was tough. Story I'm working on now is tough simply because I took on a full-time job recently, and I'm having to adjust from being 100% self-employed and making my own schedule to getting back on a routine
Right.
and trying to get my sleep cycle on track, and also kind of figure out the time I actually have to write and not be mentally exhausted when that time comes. And so yeah, it's been very slow going. Fortunately, it's not due with the publisher until next spring. So, and I've got also waiting on edits to come back from my next novel, which hoping to have those by end of the month. So I'm basically going to be writing a novella and rewriting a book at the same time.
are you, how comfortable are you with bouncing between projects?
I'm
Well,
not.
okay. All right.
I'm not. I usually try to finish, one thing at a
Right.
time because that's where my head is. And when I go all in on a story, I don't want them kind of crossing over uh, concept wise or character wise. So because I've got an extended timeline for the novella, once those edits hit, I'm going to be shifting focus and working on that 100%
Okay.
until it's done. Because that's a big book and one we're hoping to get some big five interest with. So we'll see.
All right. Yeah. I'm basically the same way. I can't jump between stuff.
Yeah, I've only ever done it one time, and that's while I was writing Devil's Creek. I shifted gears to write a short story, and in this particular case, it was beneficial because the short story kind of existed in that universe,
Okay.
so it has a lot of the same kind of language and vibe. For readers who might be listening, that story I'm talking about is The Gods of Our Fathers, which was in Cold Black and Infinite, my second collection. But yeah, that's really the only time I've ever put a book on pause to work on something short and then
Bounce
go
back and
back to the
forth.
book. Yeah,
Yeah.
primarily because I needed a break because that book was
I can't
huge.
imagine. It's not in my DNA to write long things. Like I'll write short novels and that's like 70, 80,000 words at most.
Well, I knew that Devil's Creek was going to be a long book, but I had a goal of like 100,000 words, and I knew by the time I finished the second part of the book, it was right around 50,000 words, and I realized there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way.
Just keeps going.
And at the time, I was talking in terms of first drafts. That was only like 25% of the book,
Yeah.
really, 25 or 20%, something like that. Um, so yeah, my goal. I'm not going to say never because I'm a glutton for punishment sometimes, but my goal is to never write anything that long again. So
Well, maybe that will happen. Maybe, fate will shine upon you and you will only write shorter works. I mean, you could still write quite a hefty book and it would still be shorter.
yeah, I mean, the book that I'm waiting on edits back on, the first draft is 125,000,
I, phew,
and I want to get it down to 100, so I gotta do some tightening.
that's hefty. Got some
Yeah,
thick cuts there.
as close to 100 as possible.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I've seen so much. I don't know. Everything online's like, oh, you can't publish anything that's over 110, 120 unless it's like epic fantasy. And I'm like, I don't know. I
no,
think it matters.
it's
It's the story demands it, then it demands it.
it's entirely up to the editor who's buying it and the publisher who's publishing it.
Yeah.
Like fantasy, I think you can go up to like 140 generally, unless you're an established author. Then you can write however long you want.
Yeah.
With horror, the sweet spot tends to be around 90 to 100. Um, but again, if you've got a track record, they will give you, a
Whatever.
little bit more leeway because
Yeah.
paper is expensive right now, and so there's a whole lot of factors that can go into it. But generally, they want something in that sweet spot area, depending on the genre. Like every
Right.
genre has their sweet spot.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard every time I look at the rules and I'm like, well, what about that book and that book and that book and that book and that book that breaks the rules?
Yeah, it's like, well, you're not that author.
Yeah. That's yeah. Damn it.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. Like what you were saying earlier, it's not the way the world works. Yeah. All right. Todd, plug anything and everything you want to plug. Tell people where to find you, what books to buy, where to buy them, where they can
All right.
find you.
So you can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram. That's mostly where I usually found socially. There's my website, toddkiesling.com. Uh, there's my newsletter, Messages from the Southland, which I highly encourage everybody to sign up for. I only do a monthly newsletter, so I'm not going to spam you. Uh, my latest release officially is Sundowner's Dance, which is out from Shortwave. It's available in audio, hardcover, ebook, whatever format you want, it's there. Uh, that's probably my most accessible story. It is part of a larger series called the Southland Mythos, which also includes my novels Devil's Creek and some short stories, two novellas. It's kind of my version of the Dark Tower, just not on a multiverse scale. I do have a standalone series called the Monochrome Trilogy, which an omnibus of that is being released at the end near the end of next month. I also have new editions of my first collection, Ugly Little Things, and my first novella, The Final Reconciliation. Those are being released early next month through Cemetery, or not Cemetery Dance. Ugh, that's a bad word. Through Crystal Lake Publishing, and yeah, so some of my works are available in multiple languages: Spanish and Czech, and uh, Russian.
That's crazy. The thought of that,
Yeah,
that's
it's crazy.
that's bewildering to me.
That
If
will
I if
never not be novel for
I
me.
know
Like,
that's really crazy.
so yeah, that's kind of a primer on me. I've got several novels, several novellas, a lot of short stories, and most recently, short story was published in Weird Tales, issue number 371, alongside Stephen Graham Jones and I forget who else is in that issue. It's a lot. There's a lot of people in that issue. Um, Check that out. It's a bite-sized story from me. It's about 1,500 words, which is a rarity. And that's also a Southland story. It's called Appalachian Death Song. So
That hey, stop digging, you hit oil. Appalachian Death Song immediately goes. I want to read that. I immediately
uh,
want that.
yeah, that's in the newest issue of Weird Tales. So check that out.
I'll have to hunt it down. Hunt down all the many things that you suggested. Everyone, there'll be links to all that stuff in the show notes. If you're listening, go check those things out. Can't suggest reading Sundowner's Dance enough. Thank you so much, Todd, for joining me.
Thanks, Robbie, for having me.
Of course.